You are standing in a basement in Lancaster County, Pennsylvania, with no hum, no massive lithium batteries, and no lingering fire hazards. Before you is just a spinning steel wheel, quiet as a sleeping cat, yet carrying enough power to run an entire house through the night. The most staggering part is that this system costs less than a used pickup truck, challenging every notion of expensive energy storage today. This spinning wheel can completely replace a $40,000 battery bank, commonly seen in solar energy advertisements. It stores energy for decades without capacity degradation, requires no rare earth metals, and needs no complex cooling systems. Most importantly, you don't need any permission from your utility company to install an energy heart like this in your own home. The Amish have been using these principles since the 1920s, long before modern solar panels ever existed. Today's craftsmen in Holmes County learned this technique from their grandfathers, who mastered mechanics from ancient grist mills. The first time I walked into such a home near Millersburg, I spent over 20 minutes just looking for the generator but found nothing. By the end of this film, you will understand exactly how a flywheel battery works and why it is so incredibly efficient. A 1973 Department of Energy document called this the most efficient form of home energy storage ever tested. I will also tell you about a retired man in Ohio who built such a system in his garage for under $3,000. This system works in the house you're already living in. You don't need to build new or move to a remote place to start being self-sufficient. My name doesn't matter, but what matters is that I spent 31 years of my life paying ever-increasing electric bills. Last summer, 3 consecutive blackouts cost me $400 in spoiled food in my freezer, and that was the final straw. That morning, I drove to Ohio to meet Harlan, a retired tool and die man who told me about the mysterious Amish community. Harlan said families there had electric lights, refrigerators, and machinery, but absolutely no power lines entering their homes. They didn't use solar batteries in the conventional sense either. What they had were wheels spinning endlessly in their basements. At first, I thought he was joking, but when I saw it with my own eyes, my entire mindset about energy changed forever. Basically, a flywheel is nothing more than a heavy mass being rotated to store energy in the form of kinetic motion. When you feed electricity from solar panels during the day, the wheel speeds up, and when you need power at night, it slows down to return it. It's simple, purely mechanical, and as durable as the water mills at Plantation from centuries ago, but with the efficiency of the future. This is exactly what utility companies don't want you to know. A lithium battery loses about 2% capacity every year and becomes trash after 10. A lead-acid battery bank only lasts about 7 years if you baby it, but a properly built flywheel is nearly immortal. When mounted on magnetic bearings inside a vacuum housing, a flywheel loses almost no energy over decades of use. NASA tested a system at the Glenn Research Center in 2004 with over 100,000 cycles of operation. The results showed it degraded by less than 3%, while even the best lithium batteries only handle about 4,000 cycles. Of course, the Amish version doesn't need to meet NASA standards. They use much more practical and accessible materials. They use a heavy wheel made of concrete and steel, about 1 meter in diameter and weighing between 200 to 400 kilograms. The wheel spins on sealed industrial bearings inside a sturdy, protective steel shroud or casing. A small DC electric motor spins the wheel up, and that same motor, when reversed, becomes the generator for the whole house. An engineer at Penn State University remarked that this was the most elegant piece of agricultural engineering he'd seen in 40 years. He said the efficiency numbers would embarrass any battery manufacturer if they were ever published widely in the mainstream press. But the truth is, they never are, and that is where the story of the cover-up begins to turn dark. In 1978, a report was submitted to the Department of Energy under the Carter administration with shocking conclusions. The Sandia National Laboratories report confirmed that home flywheel storage was 8 times cheaper, safer, and more durable than chemical batteries. They recommended federal incentives to develop this technology for rural American homes, but that recommendation died right in the committee room. National Archives records show the committee that rejected the report received testimony from 3 major battery makers and 2 utility associations. They argued that chemical batteries were the future, while claiming flywheels were unsafe for households, a blatant lie. Within 2 years, the Sandia report was buried under a pile of documents that were never reviewed again to protect corporate profits. Someone has benefited from you not knowing this for 47 years while we chased expensive, short-term solutions. The safety argument they used was a deception based on the catastrophic failures of high-speed industrial flywheels from the 60s. But the Amish design, improved from old grist mill blueprints, spins much slower but with greater mass for absolute safety. Physics doesn't allow it to explode. If something goes wrong, it simply winds down quietly until it stops. I personally inspected the system of Enos, Harlan's neighbor, built in a concrete pit over a meter deep in his basement corner. His wheel was cast from reinforced concrete with a steel rim meticulously balanced by a local machinist. The total cost Enos spent was only $2,800. And he has used it continuously for 9 years without a single hitch. 0 maintenance costs, except for greasing the bearings once a year, a task that takes less than 10 minutes. With 4 solar panels on his roof, this system powers all the lighting, the refrigerator, the well pump, and the freezer for his family. Enos's family of 6 lives on just 1/10 the electricity of an average American home and is completely independent of the grid. Now, let's go back in time to the winter of 1978, the period of the second wave of suppression that almost no one mentions. President Carter had just signed the Public Utility Regulatory Policies Act in November of that year, a law theoretically intended to open doors for small power producers. But in reality, the rules written by the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission over the next 18 months deliberately excluded mechanical storage systems. They set a minimum capacity threshold of 50 kilowatts to be recognized as a qualifying independent power facility, a number that was not accidental. This threshold was designed to completely remove residential-scale flywheel systems from any conversation regarding grid interconnection or incentives. Harold Bronner, a Sandia engineer who testified directly before a subcommittee in March of 1980, spoke plainly about this injustice. His testimony runs 43 pages in the congressional record, and on page 29, he used the phrase "a deliberate exclusion of the home flywheel." Immediately after that hearing, Bronner was reassigned to a tedious desk job in Albuquerque and was never allowed to testify before Congress again. He passed away in 1994, and his entire body of work was donated to the University of New Mexico, where it sat silent for many years. It wasn't until 2008 that a researcher named Claire Whitfield began classifying this massive collection in Box 7, Folder 12. There, she found the original Sandia flywheel schematics with handwritten notes in the margins regarding bearing specifications and wheel mass. The shock was that those specifications perfectly matched what the Amish had already been using 24 years before Bronner ever drew them. This means government scientists knew about the efficiency of this design but were forced to pretend it didn't exist. This knowledge was preserved and refined quietly in the basements of Lancaster, Holmes, and LaGrange counties for decades. But the real reason the Amish system works stably in residential homes without shaking the foundation lies in a massive technical secret. In 1954, an Amish bishop named Daniel Byler wrote an instructional manual titled Practical Mechanical Storage for the Plain Home. The manual was never officially published. It was only copied by hand and passed from family to family for 50 years. In that book, Byler describes a specific modification that no modern flywheel design of that time used, the double wheel stack design. To understand why it matters, we need to talk about a physics phenomenon called gyroscopic precession. When a single flywheel spins at high speed, It creates a twisting force that makes the entire unit tend to tilt or wobble violently. In a farmhouse basement, this vibration over time could crack the concrete floor and destroy the bearings in just a few months. That is the biggest reason industrial flywheels always require extremely expensive and complex vibration isolation systems. Byler's solution was to install two smaller flywheels on the same shaft but have them spin in completely opposite directions. Two wheels spinning in opposite directions cancel out each other's gyroscopic forces, creating absolute balance and eliminating all wobble. Its stability is so high that you can place a full glass of water on top of this design while it's spinning without spilling a single drop. This technique is the reason the Amish could install flywheels in ordinary homes without needing structural engineers or expensive reinforcements. This double wheel stack secret is not found in any modern engineering textbooks or on the websites of energy manufacturers today. It only exists in the faded, scanned pages of academic archives, thanks to a bishop's refusal to let knowledge wither away years ago. Byler wrote in the introduction that the purpose of energy storage was not to get rich, but to achieve freedom. He believed that a family that could store its own energy would have to answer to no one except God and the weather. This mindset is the soul of the energy self-sufficiency movement, something that cannot be bribed or controlled by large corporations. You can build this system yourself without anyone's permission, without contractors, and without grid connection permits. The materials to create it can fit in the bed of a pickup truck, and assembly takes only about a weekend if you have the knowledge. Now, let's talk about Melvin Stoltzfus, a wheelwright in Gap, Pennsylvania, who took Byler's design one step further. In 1961, Melvin replaced the single wheel with a design he called the twin disc balance, with a meticulously machined spacer. Melvin's design completely solved the bearing load issue, extending the system's lifespan from 10 years to over 40 years. He never registered a patent, he simply showed his son, and his son showed the neighbors in the community. Within 8 years, every serious flywheel in the Amish communities had switched to using Melvin's twin-disc design. When Melvin passed away in 1983, men from 3 different states attended the funeral to honor the man who brought light to their homes. This is the aspect that technical journals will never cover because it doesn't fit their model of profit-based technological progress. They want to see lone geniuses, patent applications, and million-dollar funding rounds from venture capital firms. What actually happened in these communities was a slow, persistent evolution where knowledge belonged to everyone and no one could stop it. In 2011, when researcher Whitfield compared Melvin's design with the Sandia schematics, she discovered a shocking truth. The Amish design was 12% more efficient than what government scientists had proposed in the late 70s. 12% efficiency over a 40-year lifespan is the difference between paying for electricity for life or paying only once. Imagine daily life with this system. It is much simpler than what you are currently imagining in your head. The Eicher family in Indiana, whom I visited last August, is a perfect example of the flywheel's flawless operation. They placed the system in a small concrete lined pit in the corner of their mudroom where the concrete absorbs even the slightest sound. The system runs so quietly that you only feel a very faint vibration like the distant purring of a cat. Every household activity, from baking and sewing to pumping water, is sustained by solar energy stored in that spinning mass of iron. If you're wondering how to get started, let me share the material list that Enos helped me sketch for a home-scale system. The amazing thing is that most of these components can be found at scrapyards or local agricultural equipment supply stores. First is an old steel drum from a scrapyard, costing only $20 to $50 to serve as the protective housing. You will need a high-quality concrete mix for about $40 and rebar steel for about $20 to reinforce the wheel. The heart of the charging system is an old DC electric motor taken from a discarded treadmill, which you can buy for under $100. To ensure the wheel spins smoothly, you need a pair of heavy-duty industrial bearings for about $80 at farm supply stores. Add a charge controller and some used solar panels. and the total material cost ranges between $1,800 and $3,000. This figure is 90% cheaper than an equivalent lithium battery bank, and importantly, it will outlast a human lifetime. Many people often worry that they aren't engineers and cannot personally balance a spinning wheel weighing hundreds of kilograms. But Enos showed me that this design doesn't need extreme precision, like a race car engine, because the rotation speed is quite slow. The Amish flywheel only rotates at 300 to 600 revolutions per minute, much lower than the 10,000 RPM of industrial units. At these speeds, any local machine shop can help you balance the wheel for a fee of only about $50. Regarding orientation, Enos recommends using a tabletop design, meaning the wheel sits horizontally and rotates around a vertical shaft. The horizontal orientation is critical because it completely eliminates side loading on the bearings, which causes failure in cheap units. The Amish deduced this after 20 years of trial and error since they began with wind-powered mechanical storage units. Now, let's talk about casting the wheel. You will use the scrap steel drum itself as a mold to ensure roundness and concentricity. The rebar is bent into concentric circles inside the mold before pouring the concrete to ensure the mass doesn't crack while spinning. After the concrete sets, the mass is firmly attached to a central steel shaft via pre-machined steel flanges. The next key point is the DC motor, which acts as both the drive motor and the generator when the flywheel returns energy. Most modern treadmill motors are permanent magnet motors, which are ideal for conversion into high-efficiency generators. A small secret that machinist Jonas Miller shared is rewinding the copper coils inside the motor to optimize the output voltage. Jonas only charges about $140 for this rewind, but it increases energy recovery efficiency by an extra 15%. The wiring is identical to any 12-volt solar setup. If you know how to wire truck lights, you can do this. For solar panels, you don't need the latest models. Old panels salvaged from commercial projects still work remarkably well. The Eicher family bought used panels for only 60 cents per watt, 4 times cheaper than professional installation prices in major cities. Look at the actual numbers to see why utility companies feel threatened by this newfound freedom of the people. A complete double-stack system installation costs you between $900 and $1,400 in materials if you build it yourself. Meanwhile, an equivalent lithium battery system, professionally installed, will cost you between $14,000 and $22,000. That expensive lithium battery will need replacement every 10 years, while the flywheel only needs bearing replacements for $23 a year. In Lancaster County, there are flywheels installed in 1958 that are still in continuous operation today. 67 years of non-stop operation is a powerful testament to the durability that no chemical energy device has ever achieved. Many critics argue that flywheels carry an explosion risk, but that is a misunderstanding of the strength limits of steel and reinforced concrete. Byler's design operates at less than 1/3 the burst limit of cast iron, making it extremely safe for home environments. The Amish inspect the bearings every 6 months by ear and touch. They replace them on a schedule rather than waiting for failure. A set of 4 tapered roller bearings for the Eicher family setup costs only $92 at agricultural supply stores. In total, the maintenance cost is only $23 a year to maintain power for lighting, pumps, and household appliances. The next issue critics often raise is that the energy recovery efficiency of mechanical systems is lower than chemical batteries. They are partially correct. The Eicher system achieves about 78% efficiency compared to 92% for a new lithium battery. But remember that lithium batteries lose capacity every year, while the flywheel maintains that 78% after 40 years. Calculated over the full lifespan, the flywheel delivers more energy per dollar spent than any chemical battery ever manufactured. The truth is, this technology is not scalable for massive industrial models, and that is its greatest strength for individuals. Corporations cannot build a subscription business model on something that every family can build and maintain themselves. There's no recurring revenue, no quarterly earnings reports, just a wheel spinning quietly in a corner serving your family. When I stood in the Eicher family's room, I saw Mrs. Eicher baking with a wood stove and her eldest daughter using a sewing machine. The light on their dining table came from bulbs powered by sunshine, captured 6 hours earlier. All that energy was stored in a spinning 200-kilogram mass of iron without paying a single cent to any utility company. I thought about the last 47 years since the Sandia report was buried and felt a deep injustice toward poor families. How many families could have lived freely like this if the information hadn't been suppressed and distorted by energy corporations? This knowledge is not just about mechanical engineering. It's about the right to be self-sufficient and free from the control of speculators. The Amish have kept this flame burning quietly for 3 generations, and now it's finding its way to your own garage. In winter, when temperatures drop below freezing, lithium batteries often face major issues with voltage drops and significantly reduced efficiency. But for a spinning mass of iron, the cold is not an enemy. It even helps electronic components run cooler and more efficiently. Mechanical mass does not care about ambient temperatures. It retains its stored energy whether there's a blizzard or scorching sun outside. The only thing you need to be mindful of is using low-temperature rated bearing grease to ensure the wheel isn't hindered by viscosity. The Amish typically build this system in an underground concrete pit, taking advantage of the Earth's stable temperature to protect the equipment. This concrete pit serves not only as a sturdy protective shell, but also as an incredibly effective natural sound dampener. If the wheel were placed on the surface, the faint whine of the bearings could transmit through wooden walls and annoy the residents. But when nestled in a pit lined with cinder blocks and covered with a thick concrete lid, the system completely disappears from the house's soundscape. In terms of safety, the concrete pit acts as a fortified bunker, preventing any risks in the unlikely event of a flywheel structural failure. Although the low-speed design is inherently safe, having a containment vault remains the gold standard in DIY engineering. The Amish automatic cutoff system is also very simple and purely mechanical, requiring no complex microchips or expensive sensors. They use a simple centrifugal governor to cut off the charging current if the wheel exceeds its design speed on extremely sunny days. Similarly, when the output voltage drops below a certain level, a mechanical relay disconnects it to protect household electrical appliances. This simplicity means you can personally repair every part of the system using only basic hand tools found in any garage. There are no burnt-out printed circuit boards and no mysterious software glitches that could leave you in the dark at night. I watched Enos check his system. He simply placed a mechanic's stethoscope on the rotating shaft to listen to the bearing's health. He explained that every bearing has its own language, and a good craftsman knows exactly when it needs some attention. If there's an unusual noise, he replaces that bearing immediately before it causes any vibration to the main shaft or housing. Replacing bearings on this vertical shaft design is extremely easy due to the use of removable pillow block bearing units. You simply lift the shaft slightly with a small hydraulic jack, remove the old block, and slide the new one in, all in less than an hour. Imagine trying to fix a broken Tesla Powerwall battery. You'll see the difference between true ownership and merely renting technology. Many people ask me why this system isn't more popular in modern renewable energy projects if it's really this effective. The answer lies in energy density. Flywheels take up more space and weigh much more than lithium batteries of the same capacity. For a cramped apartment, a flywheel is an impossible solution. But for a house with land or a garage, it's the optimal choice. Energy companies are only interested in solutions that can be packaged, shipped easily, and have a clear expiration date to maximize profits. They don't want to sell you something that you only need to buy once and can be used by 3 generations of your descendants. The flywheel system is a manifesto for true sustainability, challenging the use and throwaway consumer culture of our current era. In Daniel Byler's manual, He also mentions using local materials to minimize dependence on external global supply chains. If you cannot buy a precast wheel, self-casting with reinforced concrete on-site is an incredibly valuable and cost-effective skill. The rebar inside the concrete not only handles tensile forces but also keeps the mass from crumbling if a small crack appears. Concrete is a fantastic material because it's cheap, readily available, and has high density, making it perfect for storing kinetic energy. Some people even use old steel wheels from discarded tractors or steamrollers as the core for their DIY flywheels. This ability to customize and utilize scrap materials makes the flywheel the king of energy solutions in lean economic conditions. As the national grid becomes increasingly overloaded and vulnerable to natural disasters, having an independent storage system is vital. You no longer have to worry about power outages, spoiling your food, or leaving your family cold during freezing winter nights. The Eicher family system can maintain their freezer's operation for 48 hours, even if there is absolutely no sunlight. That is a level of peace of mind that no insurance policy or utility company support package could ever provide for you. As I sat and talked with Enos, he said the most precious thing wasn't the amount of money he saved every single month. It was the feeling of looking up at the lights at night and knowing they come from the power of persistence and ancestral wisdom. He no longer has to wait for company electricians to arrive and fix things after every major storm that hits this rural area. Energy freedom leads to freedom of the mind, as you are no longer bound by the strict and arbitrary regulations of energy corporations. Your flywheel construction journey might start at a scrapyard, but it will end with a life of total and complete self-sufficiency. I have spent months researching archives and meeting Amish craftsmen to thoroughly understand every step of this process. My goal is to turn this forgotten knowledge into a practical, step-by-step guide that anyone can apply to their own home. In the next section, we will dive into the detailed wiring diagrams between the panels, the controller, and the flywheel motor. I will show you how to configure the system so it automatically switches between charging and discharging modes most smoothly. You will also learn how to calculate the necessary wheel mass based on your family's specific daily electricity consumption. Don't let the numbers scare you, as the Amish accomplish this with only basic arithmetic and keen, meticulous observation. The world is changing, and sometimes the oldest solutions are actually the most advanced ones for a truly sustainable future. Prepare yourself, because we are about to open the door to a completely new era of energy right in your own garage. Let's start with the wiring diagram, the heart that controls the flow of energy from the sky to the spinning iron mass in the basement. Direct current from the solar panels passes through an MPPT charge controller to optimize the collected power. This controller not only handles charging but also protects the motor from thermal overload during the hottest hours of the day. From the charge controller, two main cables lead directly to the terminals of the permanent magnet motor, mounted on the flywheel shaft. This is where the magic happens. The current spins the motor, and the motor provides torque to accelerate the heavy concrete mass. To optimize this process, the Amish use a simple belt drive system with a carefully calculated gear ratio. This ratio ensures the motor operates in its peak efficiency range, while the flywheel gradually ramps up from rest to its rated speed. When the sun sets and the panels stop supplying power, the system automatically switches to discharge mode via a sensitive relay circuit. At this point, the massive inertia of the flywheel forces the motor shaft to keep spinning, turning it from a motor into a true generator. The current generated by this rotation is then fed through an inverter to convert the direct current into alternating current. This inverter provides clean and stable power for household appliances like LED lights, computers, or phone chargers. The secret to maintaining light throughout the long night lies in how we manage friction, the greatest enemy of any mechanical system. Air friction accounts for up to 80% of energy loss if the flywheel spins in an open space at high speeds. To solve this, Advanced designs often place the flywheel inside a sealed steel drum and apply a partial vacuum. But given the low rotational speeds used by the Amish, a vacuum isn't mandatory. Instead, they optimize the aerodynamic shape of the wheel. The surface of the concrete wheel is ground, smooth, and coated with epoxy paint to minimize air resistance as it cuts through the air. Next is the friction at the bearing contact points, where the choice of lubricant determines the overall efficiency of the system. The Amish typically use low-viscosity synthetic oils with extremely high load-bearing capacity to minimize internal drag. Another fascinating technique is installing lift magnets at the bottom of the shaft to take some of the flywheel's weight off the main bearing. Reducing the vertical load helps the bearings run cooler and significantly decreases rolling friction. The charging and discharging algorithm of this system is based entirely on natural physical laws without a single line of programming code. When the electrical load in the house increases, the generator creates more resistance, and the flywheel slows down faster to meet that demand. Conversely, when you turn off lights, the resistance from the generator drops, allowing the flywheel to maintain its momentum for longer. This mechanical balance occurs instantaneously and smoothly, creating a highly responsive energy system. To monitor the status of this massive battery, Enos uses a simple tachometer mounted on the main shaft. He knows that if the needle points to 400 revolutions, his family has enough power for cooking and watching the news tonight. If the meter shows 550 revolutions at sunset, it's a signal that a bright sunny day has fully charged the energy. This system also features a manual mechanical brake, allowing for an emergency stop of the flywheel in case maintenance is required. This brake is designed like a drum brake, acting directly on the steel rim of the flywheel to dissipate heat quickly. Noise issues are also handled by placing the entire bearing support system on 5 cm thick rubber vibration dampeners. These rubber pads absorb high-frequency vibrations, preventing noise from traveling through the foundation into the house structure. The detailed wiring diagram I'm about to share has been proven over generations and optimized so that anyone can do it. You will need an automatic circuit breaker to isolate the flywheel system from the grid if you are still using grid power in parallel. This ensures absolute safety for utility company workers if a power outage occurs on the public lines. However, most who follow this path choose to disconnect entirely and become an independent energy island. Once you master the operation, you'll realize that the flywheel is not just a device, it is a living entity. It breathes with the sunlight during the day and exhales warm light for your family during the night. The connection between people and the energy they create themselves brings an indescribable sense of pride and peace of mind. During installation, aligning the vertical shaft is the most critical step to ensure the longevity of the bearings. A simple laser level will help you ensure the rotating shaft is perfectly perpendicular to the ground, eliminating unwanted side forces. These small details are the difference between a system that lasts a few years and one that lasts a lifetime. I have compiled all the specifications for wire sizes, relay types, and how to choose the right inverter in the accompanying documentation. The goal is to help you avoid the costly mistakes that those before you have paid for with time and effort. This knowledge has been kept secret for too long, and now is the time for it to spread and set us free from dependency. Every revolution of the flywheel in your garage is a step closer to true freedom in the face of a changing world. You don't have to be a genius to do this, you just need a bit of persistence and faith in the power of your own hands. Prepare your most basic tools, because we are about to enter the final stage of making the energy dream a reality. The final part of the script will be important advice and how to join the community of flywheel builders. You are building a legacy that will serve your children and their children long after we are gone. The light is waiting for you, not from a distant power line, but from the iron mass spinning quietly beneath your feet. So here is what I want to leave you with after this long journey into the world of mechanical energy. For 47 years, families have been told they have no choice but to be tethered to a grid or a cycle of expensive chemical waste. But the truth was never hidden, it was just spinning quietly in a basement corner waiting for someone to look. If you believe that real knowledge should belong to the people, and not just those who profit from it, then your path is clear. I want to hear your thoughts in the comments. Would you build your flywheel in a basement pit or a detached garage? Every comment helps this community grow and ensures that this once buried information reaches those who need it most. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell because we are just beginning to recover what was taken from us. Next week, I will show you a propane refrigerator modification used by the Amish since 1967. It involves a single copper coil and an 1850s principle that cuts fuel use by half and adds 20 years to its life. You won't want to miss that as it completes the blueprint for a truly independent and sustainable homestead. Until then, keep your wheels spinning, keep your eyes open, and never stop questioning the systems built to keep you dependent. There is more to this story, and I am honored to have shared this first chapter of freedom with you today.